We're going to start with Treasure Reef. You can see there's tons of fish here. There's Tangs or surgeon fish, there's Anthias, there's clowns, Grammas, even a triggerfish, and of course Wrasses. And in today's video I want to actually focus on as many fish as I can and also explain the order in which I've introduced this fish and my rationale for picking this fish for this particular aquarium. So first things first, this is a reef, so it's SPS dominated. You can see that there is not that many soft corals, which are in my other aquarium, which we will talk about as well. But here you've got very strong flow. There is 4 MP40 pumps in the back that right now are slowed down, but they really blasting things. And you can see even the sand gets moved around at the bottom. And for strong flow, you can't go wrong with such strong fish as surgeon fish or these tangs, which you can see over here. So this is a surgeon fish. This guy is a surgeon fish. This is my favorite surgeon fish of them all. This is another one. So they are all awesome because they will keep, they'll go after algae because they're herbivores, and they will keep your rock fairly clean. You can see this guy over here is already picking at the rocks. So one of the main reasons why lots of people keep them, other than obviously they are super colorful and beautiful, it is their utility. They are probably the most utilitarian fish in all of reef aquarium. Look at this guy. So you see, he is always picking stuff up and off of the rocks. So maybe we'll start with this guy. So this is Whitetail Bristletooth Tang. So it's another surgeon fish, and he is honestly my absolute favorite fish of them all. I think he warrants for us to get a closer look at him. So, and I think he is actually the most expensive fish that I have in my aquarium. Just look at the colors. It's very unusual. You don't really see this guy in aquariums very often, just because it's fairly rare. But look at that stunning chevron kind of skin, and beautiful white tail, yellow eyes. So he is kind of a mixture of regular bristletooth and also the coal tang, and he's a hard worker. You can see he is always out and about, always keeping everything clean. So, but super expensive fish. So maybe not, shouldn't be your first fish if you're just getting into this hobby. But also very docile. He is very gentle. I've never seen any problems with him, but he's also very shy. Now, right next to him, this is a beautiful purple tang. Now, this guy is considered to be one of the most famous and good-looking fish. It's shaped almost like a yellow tang, so you see that round shape. But he's also known to be fairly aggressive. So this gorgeous fella is somebody that you probably don't want to introduce in the beginning into your aquarium. So you want all the other fish to be established, and only then maybe it should be one of your last fish that you do introduce. Beautiful guy. Notice that because of the body pattern and the mouth pattern, he's probably going to be going for a slightly different type of algae, and this is definitely somebody that is also keeping things fairly clean and inside of aquarium, and he's a great addition. But please beware, because he might get quite dominant, and you don't want to have another purple tang in your aquarium, because unless it's a very big aquarium, otherwise you might have issues. And he may go after a yellow tang if you were to introduce him into aquarium as well, just because they have a similar body shape. Now let's talk a little bit about this size. So for example, that Bristletooth is very small, and he's not going to get much larger. But for example, this Sailfin Tang is going to be huge, and eventually he's going to be out of this particular aquarium, just because he is eventually going to be close to 11-12 inches, and a 4-foot aquarium is just not going to cut it. But I think I'm gonna keep him for at least another year until he gets a little bit too big. Now, speaking of sailfin, this is a gorgeous fish with very unique markings. There's actually two different sailfins. There's the Desjardins, and then there is the regular sailfin. This is a regular one, so it's got those stripes, and the older he's gonna get, the more beautiful he will be. There's just a stunning pattern on this guy, and I have had many discussions with other reefers. Some more prefer the sailfin, some the regular one, and some like the Desjardins. I love Desjardins, and I have them in my other aquariums, but in this one I figured I wanted just the sailfin. But if you look closely at him, you'll see how gorgeous all those markings on his body are. Now, another Tang is this Dory. So Dory is very docile. They're actually the ones that get scared the most, and a lot of times if they are really scared, they'll just go under a rock or under some coral, and they're just gonna lie down and pretend that they are not there. So, and also if you have any frags in your aquarium, some dories or blue tangs are known to be moving those frags around, so just beware of that. That's just their personality, but very gentle fish. So not that bad at all. And another, I'll leave you for the last, but another Tang in here. So I've got tons of Tangs. Is this orange shoulder? Now this guy is also very gentle, very hard worker, and one of the most beautiful fish in my aquarium. So if I were to kind of put him, I'd put him in kind of medium category in terms of aggression and difficulty. And finally, this is my absolute favorite fish. This is powder blue Tang. He is he's got this striking yellow and blue plus white, and hard worker, but also notice the skin on him. It's very, very gentle, and because of that he will be a magnet for any pests. So this is a more difficult fish to keep. Probably you don't want to start with this guy, and definitely a quarantine as well as getting it from a reputable source is super important. Now, a little step back. If somebody's going to wonder about so many Tangs in this aquarium, there's a thing called Tang Police. I'm sure I'm going to hear from some of you. So this aquarium, first of all, is connected to a much larger water volume. So the water quality here is pristine. We are looking at probably 600 gallons worth of water in this aquarium, so I'm not worried about it from that perspective. I'm also keeping an eye on any aggression or any interaction, and whenever there would be any issues, I'll definitely be addressing them. But so far, as we've been shooting this video and looking at it, you can see that there's nothing really alarming going on. So I think the fish are happy. I'm feeding them quite a lot, and so far they have been doing quite well. So this is the Tangs. Once again, probably keep the powder blue and purple Tang kind of to be your last fish, and make sure that you quarantine, but maybe start with some Bristletooth, just regular Bristletooth. You don't need to get the Whitetail because the regular one is probably 5 times cheaper. I'd say like a dory or even the orange shoulder are excellent additions for your reef. At least this is what I've picked here. Now let's go a little bit more exotic next. First, look at this beautiful triggerfish right over here. This is a Bluethroat triggerfish. You can actually see that he's got a little bit of blue on his throat, hence the name. Let's maybe take a look at him here. And he is a gentle soul. He's not going to touch your coral. So there's really in our hobby, I think there's 2 different triggerfishes that are reef safe. This is the Bluethroat, and then there is the crosshatch. And the crosshatch is probably 5 times more expensive. So I've always kept Bluethroat, and I really like this guy for his unique swimming pattern and just overall personality. He's always out and about, but if you have any shrimp or maybe even smaller fish, you might run into an issue. And I don't really have any shrimp in this aquarium because of that. But I think he's totally worth it. He's also eats like a pig, and I don't know, for some reason he's just looking at that left corner, looking for something. Now, going even more exotic, you've got this beautiful flame angel. Look at this guy. Look, he was one of the first fish that I've introduced, and he's very, well, he's just gorgeous. Probably one of my favorite fish. He is, or she is, very colorful, very bright red, and I'm not too worried about my coral because I've got tons of it, and I'd rather keep this beautiful angel in there. Another angel that you could pair it up with or have it in your aquarium is Coral Beauty, which I do not have, but maybe at some point I will introduce. But as you can see, this tank is pretty full as it is. So love this guy. He's always out and about, and he is definitely adding that beautiful splash of red and a little bit of orange and blue into the aquarium. Now, speaking of yet another fairly exotic to a degree fish, where are you, Pinocchio? I've got the Copperband, which I've introduced a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a little bit even longer, and he's been doing great. This is this guy over here. This is a butterfly fish. Now these guys are super tough to keep. This is not somebody I would recommend. First of all, they will refuse to eat. They don't eat dry food. Some will, but most of them won't. And a lot of times when you get that fish, it might just die on you because of eating. So make sure that it eats at the store. But then what I do, for example, in this aquarium, just to keep that Copperband, is I turn the flow off and I dump a whole bunch of frozen shrimp. And also, he doesn't seem to like hikari frozen shrimp, but he likes P. mysis shrimp. So this is the one that I keep feeding him and hoping for the best. So for some reason, but you can also see he's got that long snout right over there, and that's what allows him to get into crevices. So if you, for example, have Aiptasia infestation, he may or may not help. So I really like this guy. I'm very happy that I've introduced him into this aquarium, and all the trouble that he's caused in feeding and all the requirements, I think is totally worth it. So this is my honestly, again, I keep repeating that, but one of my top fish. So, but don't get it when you start. Another exotic combo is those Anthias. So this is kind of the goldfish of the sea. Again, they are very finicky. Do not get them unless you have been around for a while, and you can keep them. So there's many different varieties of Anthias, and some are almost impossible to keep, but I find that the Whitetail, the blue-eyed Anthias, or even these guys are a little bit harder than the blue-eyed. This is, I think, Bartletts Anthias, but get some simple ones. So Whitetail Anthias is the ones that I would recommend, and you do need to feed your tank several times per day. So I actually have automated feeding, and I also do tons of frozen food and just regular like daily feeding throughout the day. So lots of it. Next to it is the yellow wrasse. I love wrasses, so different type of fish, and wrasses are honestly one of my favorite fish. They are known jumpers, so there's a good chance you may find them on the floor carpet surfing, but this guy has been with me for a while, and I'm just, I guess, taking that risk with the fish. Really cool, awesome swimming pattern, and he gets into nooks and crannies, and he's gonna try to pick up some small crustaceans or maybe even pests. So it's a beautiful guy, and you can introduce him at any point in time. Awesome fish, highly recommend. Speaking of wrasses, there is one more wrasse here, which is a cleaner wrasse, and this guy is, I keep saying guy, but I don't know, there might be all girls, so he or she is a utilitarian fish, so it will kind of pluck pests or other things off of the skin of other fish. So he's a little cleaner, and that's hence it's called a cleaner wrasse. You can see he's nice and fat, very happy with it. Also very gentle. Usually fish won't go after him because they respect all the good stuff that they do. So awesome addition to an aquarium, but also beware that they are known jumpers, and once again, quarantine, get it from a reputable source, all of that good stuff. Okay, we're almost done, but this is yet another one of my top favorite fish, the Royal Gramma. Very awesome coloration. He's got that purple with beautiful eyelashes and like stripes around the eyes, and we've got that beautiful transition into yellow. It's very bright fish. Honestly, one of my absolute favorite. So these fish will swim upside down, so they can get into like a cave and then kind of hang there. So this is an awesome fish to have in your aquarium. They're also very gentle, a little bit shy, but in my opinion, it's one of the first fish that I got, and it's probably still one of my absolute favorites. So definitely highly recommended fish. And Nemo, clownfish, which is right over here. I don't have an anemone in this aquarium. I've got two of those, and I just think that a tank is not complete without a pair of clowns. I am very simple when it comes to clowns. I've never really gotten the bug of getting fancy ones. I think that this particular either Ocellaris or Percula clownfish is probably one of the most beautiful fish. It was the first fish that I ever got, and I'm still fascinated by the color of this fish and just overall personality. They're always out and about, gentle damsel fish. So some damsels are notorious for their aggression, but usually clownfish, unless they are defending your anemone, will be fairly okay. Now it's different for, let's say, other types of clowns. Look at that. So they are looking to I guess stay somewhere, so they are just rubbing off of this coral, and well, I guess that's just what they do. I think I've covered everybody. I don't think I've missed any of the fish. and I think I'm gonna call it a day. I'll leave my fish selection in my lagoon tank, which is a lot more softy driven tank, which has got other type of fish, but also very beautiful, for the second episode of this. Now, once again, make sure to quarantine the fish. This is super important. Make sure to get it only from a reputable source, from people that do proper quarantine at the store, but also that buy from reputable sources in, let's say, Indonesia or wherever they catch it, because how they catch the fish is a whole other thing. You want a fish that's caught by net, not by some chemicals or explosions, because you may get a fish that looks okay and maybe even eats, but if it was affected by chemicals, it's just gonna die in your aquarium over a period of days or weeks, and you may do everything correctly, but that's just what will happen. So, reputable sources, ask your fellow reefers on where they get the most success with the fish. Because remember, all of this fish, almost all of it comes from the ocean. There is some breeding going on, but other than, let's say, the clowns, it's pretty hard to find any fish that is has been bred locally. But good luck to you. If how do you like my fish selection? You think there's anything I can improve? Does that give you the right vibes here with just the whole overall aesthetics of the tank? I've once again suggesting to introduce more docile fish first, and then kind of start climbing up with aggression. But with that said, I never really quite understood this advice fully, because if the fish dies, or sometimes you do want to introduce another fish that's more docile. So in this case, get a acclimation box. This is usually what I do. I have like an acrylic box. I put it right over here, and then I would keep the fish in the acrylic box, maybe sometimes for days or weeks, and after a while other fish lose interest, and this is when you want to introduce the fish. Usually you can do it right when the lights are off, and maybe feed the fish profusely for the next 2-3 days to make sure that they don't feel that, oh, there's scarcity in food. That is all for today. Check out treasurecorals.com. This is my website. This is where I got tons of other cool stuff that I offer, and let me know what you think. I will post another video about my other aquarium soon.